From the combined newsrooms of KARK4 and Fox 16, breaking news coverage.
Good morning, everyone. We do have breaking news for you this morning. A mass shooting in downtown Little Rock. I'm Donna Terrell.
And I am Aaron Nolan. Right now, here's what we know. 17 people were shot at Power Ultra Lounges in downtown Little Rock. It's one of those moments, Donna, when you wake up, you hear something like this. This is actually video from inside the club. Listen to the shots fired.
We are told there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 shots that were fired inside of this club last night. This happened around 2:30 in the morning. We're going to start with team coverage. We have Price McKeon. She is live at the scene. Price, this situation is fluid still. What do we know right now?
What we know right now are the basics of what police are telling us right now. We know that 17 people were hit by gunfire, according to police. One of those people they originally said was in critical condition. They've updated that to stable condition. I'm going to get out of the way, though, so you can see what is going on exactly behind me. Crime scene investigators just cleared the scene a few minutes ago, clearing what evidence markers they had down here. You can see that there are windows busted out there.
Preliminary information has a group from Memphis that was performing at this location. Some sort of dispute broke out between individuals that were inside. An exchange of gunfire took place. We believe that the latest number has approximately 17 individuals that were injured as a result of the gunfire.
We do know that 17 people, according to police, 17 people were shot. Some people were hurt. Well, were shot. Some people were hurt because they were trampled trying to get out of the facility. Jonathan Roselle is at UAMS, where 9 victims were taken.
We do know that one victim, a woman, was in critical condition initially this morning. She, we're told by police, is doing better at this hour right now.
17 people shot at this club. Right here, Power Ultra Lounge, right in the heart of downtown Little Rock. You can see this is Broadway running this way, Interstate 30 here, the River Market in this location, Power Ultra Lounge right in the middle of it all. Here is the bird's eye view of that club. You can see, Donna, as you were just reporting, as we kind of zoom in, let's kind of walk through what we were seeing here. You can see the windows there, Donna. Those are the windows that were broken. If we can go down to street level, Alan. Here we go. All right, hold it right there for just a second. Okay, those windows to the top right corner of your screen are broken. What you're telling me is that we have had reporters who can say that people were jumping out of those windows, possibly hitting that red awning you see there to get to safety. People were shot overnight at a club in downtown Little Rock.
Some sort of dispute broke out between individuals that were inside. An exchange of gunfire took place.
Shots just got fired and everybody just took off running.
No mother should have to go through this. They need to put the guns down, stop the violence.
When does this gun violence in Little Rock, when does it end?
I could have possibly had to try to sit down and explain to my grandbaby why her mother wasn't coming home. You know, this is unreal.
We've got to get a handle on this. It's got to be done.
We can't let this define who we are.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us both on KARK4 and Fox 16. I'm Kevin Kelly.
And I'm Victoria Price. A very, very big story we're following here. That shooting happening at the Power Ultra Lounge on West 6th Street just before 2:30 this morning. Take a look at this map right here. As you can see, the club is right in the heart of downtown Little Rock.
Yeah, here's what we know at this hour. At least 25 people were shot, 3 others injured while leaving the scene. It happened during a performance by a group from Memphis called Finesse 2 Times.
Now, miraculously, not a single casualty from this, despite how many people who were shot. All the victims here were sent to several hospitals in Little Rock, North Little Rock, and Conway.
Yeah, and according to police, the youngest of those victims, just 16 years old. And so far, no one has been arrested. Little Rock police, along with the mayor, just wrapped up a news conference at City Hall. Our very own Mitch McCoy was there. He joins us live with the latest. Mitch.
Yeah, Kevin and Victoria, good evening to both of you guys. About a minute up the road is City Hall, and that is where this news conference took place. But I want to show you guys exactly what's happening here at this nightclub at 6th and Louisiana. We're about, 15 hours after that first gunshot started being fired, and it is still a very chaotic scene. You have crime scene units here right now. You have broken glass, which we're told by the mayor and the police chief somebody jumped out of.
Kevin, now her family tells me that she is actually one of the 2 people in critical condition tonight. They say that she was shot in her shoulder and she could possibly lose her arm. And her family tells me that she was just an innocent bystander at the concert last night. They also say, and they want to send a message, that the violence has to stop here in Central Arkansas.
The only thing you hear is your child name and gunshots. I still can't believe it.
Renee Dominic says her 19-year-old daughter, Dejana Mixon, still on a ventilator in the hospital.
And I don't wish this on nobody, no mother.
She was shot at the Power Ultra Lounge shooting early Saturday morning.
Some friends knocked on my door at 3-something this morning.
She was able to talk with her today. Charmaine, she's in studio. What can you tell us?
Exactly, Stephanie. Nakia Baker says seeing her daughter covered in blood is the worst moment of her life. But worse than that, having to tell her granddaughter that her mother had been shot.
But she decided she wanted to go to this concert. And all that could have changed in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, so far Herman Lewis hasn't answered phone calls or responded to requests for comment about the shooting at his club, aside from hanging up on Jonathan Rozelle. But we have learned that there appear to be court cases for debts owed against Herman Lewis in the past month, and it appears there may be other issues like taxes owed as well. Alcoholic beverage control officials say there have been 7 violations cited against the Power Ultra Lounge since 2012, including multiple violations for underage drinking. ABC has suspended the lounge's mixed drink license with at least 3 potential violations at play at this point. Lewis will have the chance to appear at an ABC hearing on July 10th. Those potential violations against the club at this point include allowing possession of weapons on the premises, disorderly conduct, and failure to be a good neighbor. City officials say they intend to try and shut down the Power Ultra Lounge location.
The state plans to execute 7 inmates in 11 days. It's been a 25-year nightmare for the victims. It's time for that justice to be carried out.
The state's effort to execute a number of death row inmates hits a major legal snag.
The first 2 of the unprecedented executions have been blocked by the Arkansas Supreme Court.
What about their victims?
It's a roller coaster ride. They need to set something and leave it.
And up to the minute, we are monitoring breaking news as the state of Arkansas and the entire country wait to see if Arkansas will carry out a lethal injection tonight for the first time in 12 years. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight at 10 o'clock, everyone. I'm Bob Clausen.
And I'm Ashley Katz, live at the Cummins unit tonight, where here we are in the 10 o'clock hour. A lot has progressed, yet we are still in a holding pattern.
Supreme Court of the United States maintains Davis's stay. It maintains
means
Davis's
no
stay.
execution right now.
No execution.
As of April 17th.
Yeah.
In the past hour, the Arkansas Supreme Court paving the way for one of tonight's executions. Liddell Lee's execution is set to happen in about 2 hours.
We've got team coverage for you tonight, trying to bring all of this together. We are live with insight from Marcy Manley in Little Rock. We are live here on Cummins Prison with the very latest on what we'll be developing throughout the evening. We are also live in Washington, D.C. Drew Petchmo keeping an eye on the United States Supreme Court and anything that should happen up there.
And good evening, everyone. This just in to Fox 16 and KARK. Breaking news. The Supreme Court of the United States has just issued a statement saying it has denied all of condemned inmates Liddell Lee's motions for executions. Simply put, Liddell Lee will be executed tonight.
That was about 30 minutes ago or so, so I would assume just about any minute
And guys,
we should be hearing something.
Curious.
It's official. It's official. Liddell Lee just became Arkansas's first lethal injection in more than a decade. That is the tweet from Jesse Tenure. It has happened. It is done. It is final.
Time of death, 11:56.
It's over.
Before midnight.
So Liddell Lee is has died from lethal injection tonight.
Now, covering every county, This is your statewide newscast. Arkansas Today in high definition.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could take it back, but I can't.
He didn't want straightened out. He wanted the life he had.
Good Monday afternoon. I am Aaron Nolan. The state is moving forward with plans to execute these two death row inmates. Jack Jones and Marcel Williams are scheduled to die by lethal injection beginning at 7 o'clock tonight. We do have team coverage this afternoon. Drew Petrimo is live in Washington, D.C., where the U.S. Supreme Court could decide a case which could impact future executions. Victoria Price is at the Cummins unit in Lincoln County. But first, let's go to Marcy Manley, who's been following the legal issues of all of these executions. Marcy, we started Monday. Things are continuing to develop. In fact, just moments ago, there has actually been a ruling on the case of Jack Jones.
Yeah, one of the several rulings, rather, just like in those previous cases, Aaron. There are currently cases pending in state and federal courts regarding Williams and Jones. The 8th Circuit just handing down this decision denying his stay of execution. We're tracking a total of 9 cases at this point.
Donna, it's official. Jack Jones, a condemned inmate who's been on death row for more than 20 years, has been executed. This according to Jesse Tenor, who just sent out a tweet. Bob and Donna, as you can see here, Jesse Tenor has finally made her way out after witnessing, one of the executions. Marcel Williams. First of all, how are you doing?
Honestly, fine. I mean, it was very methodical. It was, as far as we could tell, you know, the inmate wasn't having any sort of trouble throughout it, any sort of problems. And so for all of us, I mean, it was, once it did happen, once it started, it was honestly, you know, like I keep saying, we just kept doing our role, and it was not horrible to watch, to be there.
And tonight at 10, we are following the latest breaking developments as we await word on the final of 4 scheduled executions in Arkansas. Right now, we're in limbo as we wait for a decision from the United States Supreme Court.
Stephanie Sharp joining us now. You spent a lot of time with some folks, and to say that this has been emotionally raw for a lot of them is an understatement. A lot of them taking a very unique approach to dealing with this and also helping others deal with it.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Bob. And of course, as we wait for all these legal challenges, we have to look back on what put Kenneth Williams on death row in the first place. And it's been nearly 2 decades since he was convicted of killing a college cheerleader. Dominique Nikki Hurd was just 19 years old, and she was a student at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff when she was killed. Her mom, Vicki Williams, remembers her only biological daughter as someone who was full of life. Nikki was studying to be a doctor at the University of Pine Bluff when she and a friend were kidnapped, robbed, and shot by Kenneth Williams. Her mother says she forgives Williams, but says she wonders if other tragedies could have been avoided if Kenneth Williams had been sentenced to death in the first place for killing her daughter.
Kind of felt like if they would have given him that at first, maybe could have saved some more lives.
Nikki's family is not here tonight, and they say they are ready to move forward also while remembering their daughter. Looking at another victim, not everyone wants to see Kenneth Williams put to death. The last person killed by Williams was Michael Greenwood, who died in a car crash Williams caused while fleeing from police in Missouri. Greenwood's daughter, Kayla, is now close friends with Williams' daughter, Jasmine, and just yesterday helped her and her daughter see Williams one last time. And here's what they had to say about the situation.
For me, I just put myself in her shoes, and it just feels like I would be able to see my dad, and I would be able to see my dad meet my children.
He said tomorrow, like, no matter what happens, he will at least be more at peace now, knowing that he was able to see me and my daughter, and as well as everything the Greenwood family has done for him.
I think we've got...
Yeah, just breaking news right now. Kenneth Williams has been executed.
Time of death, 11:05.
Just 4 minutes ago.
So Kenneth Williams now the 4th person to be put to death in the state of Arkansas in the last 7 days.
Mitch just put out a tweet saying that you thought that something might have gone wrong. What were you seeing that led you to believe that?
Well, there was a lot of heavy chest pumping, a lot of heavy breathing, even after they turned off the microphones.
Obviously, it must have been great memories because she smiled and she laughed and just came to life when we visited her, especially my kids.
Memories of Hillary Rudkin's mother are bittersweet now.
Granted, she was sick and sometimes couldn't remember my name, but then other days to where we could tell we made her whole day.
Clara Hoyt died in March at 68 years old. She had been diagnosed with dementia and had suffered a heart attack and stroke in the years before. Hillary was told her death was from natural causes triggered by distress.
Wiggled her way and panicked and basically scared herself to death, gave herself a heart attack.
When Hillary saw her mother an hour after getting the call, she says Clara was back in bed, a sheet wrapped around her neck.
And they told me that was because for when rigor mortis sets in, they don't want your mouth to fall open.
The Pulaski County Coroner's Office bypassed an autopsy after police reported no signs of criminal or suspicious activity. But Hillary would get a call a day later from a whistleblower telling her Clara's death at Pleasant Valley Nursing and Rehabilitation could have been prevented. Hillary said the deceit went deeper when she confronted the nursing home administrator.
Basically, my mother, she got on her knees, and my mother's head, she said, was just kind of laying on the mattress.
The results of a private autopsy, though, proved Clara Hoyt suffocated. The result of her head being trapped between the mattress and the bed rail, cutting off airflow.
They're supposed to do their job. They take all of her money, and it's up to them to provide her the best care. They didn't do that, and as a result, I no longer have my mother. My kids no longer have their grandmother.
Nurses to be truthful.
According to the coroner's office, the nursing home never reported the death as connected to suspected neglect or abuse.
We really rely on the nurses that's reporting the death to one of my deputies to be truthful. If a police come to the scene of a nursing home, then normally the police agency will call us. But it still falls back on that nursing home to report the death.
The coroner's office, alerted to the private autopsy results, opened up its own investigation. 3 different employees gave 3 different stories. The nursing home finally reported Clara's death to the Office of Long-Term Care nearly 2 weeks after her death, despite a rule requiring immediate notice.
That's what's scary about this case is they almost got away with it.
The investigation by DHS found conflicting accounts from staff, some who claimed Clara Hoyt was never trapped, her head simply rested on the bed. Others who say they were shocked how her head and neck were between the rail and the mattress. Reenactment photos with staff during the coroner's investigation show what really happened.
The truth is that she was asphyxiated because of their neglect in creating the environment that caused her to choke.
The coroner determined between 3:30 and 5 a.m., Clara fell out of bed, her head wedged in the gap, and when she was finally found some 2 hours later, she didn't have a pulse and she was turning blue.
And to think how scared she was, what must have been going through her mind, being all by herself, that's hard for me.
They created the very thing that caused her death, and unfortunately we see that all the time in the nursing home industry.
The Office of Long-Term Care found none of the staff at Pleasant Valley had been trained on proper bed rail use before or after Clara's death, which investigators say put other residents in danger of the same suffocation risk during their investigation on April 12th.
They're kind of at the mercy of the nursing home, and I guess just have to pray that they get someone who is not there for a paycheck.
Hillary knew her mother's health would eventually go downhill and her memory would ultimately fail her. But she firmly believes her mother would have had more years of happy visits like this ahead.
There's no more talking to Mom, and to me, nobody replaces Mom. And she was taken from me too soon, so I'm very angry and very upset that she's not here anymore.
Dangerous winds and floods are being blamed for at least 7 deaths.
Arkansas families left to deal with the aftermath.
Governor Asa Hutchinson declaring a state of emergency.
Flooding so severe in northeast Arkansas, officials have had to call for mandatory evacuations.
People have about 10 more hours until they have to be out of here.
We was around here in 2011. We knew she had to get out.
The governor just wrapped up a press conference urging all those people that should have been out at 8 o'clock this morning to leave immediately.
Levee is probably going to breach any minutes.
35 residents we know are at an emergency shelter at this hour.
Just the act of the gods, the perfect storm in the right situation.
Instead of cashing in on low prices, he's sizing up how much flood damage he could be facing at his Pocahontas office and storage units. This restaurant here dangerously close to the water, overtaking it totally and coming inside at this hour.
Officials with the city of Pocahontas tell me that a levee failure to our east this morning actually providing a little bit of flood relief.
And I'm told right here it's gone down about 3 feet from where it was before the levee breach. You can see the parking lot is pretty much entirely drained out, aside from a few puddles here and there.
Pocahontas gradually starting to pick up the pieces after that river did reach record levels. Cody Grice had several friends help him sandbag the perimeter of his house earlier this week.
We got back and, we're dry.
We had to pull up all the carpets. I've been through this once before, and the other time it helped, but it didn't get hardly as high as it did this time.
Just as bad as I thought it was going to be.
So far, officials are estimating that from the flooding, about 50 homes were lost and 150 more were damaged.
This is pretty bad from what I've seen, especially for a small rural area. They need a lot of help here.
Live from Arkansas's breaking news leader, Fox 16 News at 5:30 starts now.
Today, Fox 16 is teaming up with the American Red Cross to help flood victims in northeast Arkansas. Your donation, no matter the amount, will help the people of Pocahontas rebuild after last week's historic flooding. To donate, call the number that you see there on the screen, 501-340-4922. Or you can always go to our website, fox16.com. Your generosity will help a community that desperately needs it right now. In addition to Pocahontas, your dollars will also help flood victims all over the state. Good evening, everyone. I'm Donna Terrell. I'm so glad you're with us tonight for this special edition of Fox 16 News at 5:30. We have team coverage of the flooding aftermath in northeast Arkansas. All of our crews are in Pocahontas tonight. Caitlin Reardon, Jonathan Roselle. But first, let's check with my co-anchor, Kevin Kelly. And Kevin, I know you've had a chance to get up close and personal with these neighborhoods and inside of homes to see exactly what's happening there.
Yeah, Donna, and you really don't get a complete picture of just how devastating these floods were for the people who live in this particular area until you're actually standing in this neighborhood. We're coming to you live from the corner of Vicky and Pace Street. This is in the Roble addition. The police chief who monitors this area referred to it earlier in the day as the war zone. Imagine as you look down this street, a wall of 3 to 4 feet of water just coming, barreling down this street. That was the case several days ago. Obviously, the water has receded, but now we're into cleanup mode as you see piles and piles of debris, personal belongings that now litter the front yardways. These are items that meant something to the homeowners, but are now ruined because of all that water. To give you a better idea of just how high the water came and just how devastating it is, I want to take you inside this house. The homeowner, kind enough to let me come in, he is not here, but take a look at this. I mean, we got construction crews ripping out drywall. You can see right here on this line, this is basically how high the water got. All the drywall had to be ripped out. The studs are now soaked and will have to dry. And then the contractor said it's going to take at least a week, not until next week, before he can actually start some of the necessary repairs by putting up new drywall. This is just one example of the damage done to more than 50 homes which were destroyed, another 100 that received serious damage. For another perspective, in a different location not too far away, I want to bring in Fox 16's Caitlin Reardon, who will give us an idea of just how bad the damage is where she is. Caitlin?
Well, Kevin, what we're dealing with where I am right now, which is off of 67 North, 166 is this highway, and we're dealing with the fact that there is still water here. We can't even get through these roads. Now, we have a truck coming across now. I'm going to get out of the way, but typically this road is closed to traffic.
We just got here about an hour and a half ago. As you can see, the rain is coming down, and just moments ago, the wind started really picking up where we're at right now. The civil support team from Arkansas came rolling in here to the Houston area. People evacuated from their homes came out. They were taking pictures of the trucks, taking video of their trucks, and they were also just telling them thank you as they were walking in.
You can't prepare for something like this.
Kirby Prim's home is surrounded by water, something this Arkansan never thought he'd see.
It's overwhelming.
Steve Dyer also lives in Kingwood. He is a former missionary who worked with the church at Rock Creek in Little Rock. I'd just like to remind you guys, this is just one neighborhood in Houston. There are several more neighborhoods just like this. As you can see, we're on a boat, and this is typically a neighborhood. This is typically a road. Two former Arkansas students, Blake and Mick, did what they could. They grabbed their boat and launched from what was a road.
It's good. There's a lot of support from everyone around town, and
some families here in Houston haven't had power for days. That's why the Entergy Arkansas lineman crew came here to Texas.
We actually spoke with the lady on the way down here. She got very emotional about her family being trapped in a home.
The National Guard Black Hawk crew down here in the southeast Houston area. Two Arkansas National Guard Black Hawks are in southeast Texas, providing aid and relief in Houston.
Anything we can do to support the Texas National Guard and as well as Louisiana is a huge deal for us to be able to exercise that support.
So it's going to be a long time coming. FEMA said that it's going to last for several years, and a lot of folks here are just ready to get it over with, that's for sure.
Reporting in Beaumont, live in Kingwood. In Houston, I'm Stephanie Sharp.
The future Brian Silva wants is just within reach.
When you're so used to doing the same thing, when you've been doing the same thing for so long, it's like a cycle, so it's hard to break.
If he can only leave his past behind.
My daddy was a gangbanger. My uncle was a gangbanger. So when my daddy went to prison, that's all I had left was the memories of gangbanging, selling drugs, and living the street life.
30-year-old Brian, a product of the 1990s gang war era that swept through Arkansas's capital city. Battles over drug-dealing territory created brotherhoods and deadly bonds.
My brothers and I had my daddy homeboys, which was like, come on. They didn't say, well, come on, get in this truck. I'm gonna make sure you go to school. They come on to the hood.
Brian's one of the former gangbangers trying to resist returning to an old way of life that led to multiple stints in prison and loss that hit close to home.
I done been there. I lost two of my brothers, Ellis Ward and Ladarius Galvin, to this gang stuff, to this street stuff. That's why I'm so ready to help the ones that is coming up under me.
He's one of the allies this street crew of former criminals has turned away from Little Rock's corners.
These youngsters, they want to break the cycle of violence. This is the Bloods neighborhood over here.
This street crew has collectively served more than 100 years in prison.
We know what these youngsters going to. They don't know what they're going to.
All this talk about crime in Little Rock because the type of violence that put this small southern city in the Bible Belt on the national map in the 90s has resurfaced. In late 2016, 2 toddlers gunned down. And in 2017, there have been nearly 4 dozen homicides, putting the city on track for its highest homicide rate since 1993. And among the innocent victims, a daycare worker killed in front of kids, a rash of drive-bys, hundreds of shot-fired calls.
A total of 28 people injured in some way from this.
And a mass shooting tied to gang feuds that left 28 injured. It's all pushed the city to acknowledge a need for action.
No, we cannot arrest our way out of this problem.
The street crew is part of the Little Rock mayor's 6-point crime plan. It mirrors a national program that has seen success elsewhere, but some criticize the effort because unlike the national ceasefire programs, Little Rock has foregone outside help and input, aiming to essentially repackage old services to start a new day.
If we had about 100 jobs, we could end this recent uptick in violence right now. Because the people that we have out here that's really creating the violence, it's not that many. We're not Chicago. We're Little Rock.
In the middle of the effort to curb this new wave of crime, some can't help pointing out this is simply a cycle, an issue metro areas across the country are confronting, but one Little Rock is all too familiar with.
We've dealt with this before. We made this change. So that's one thing, us being in a state of denial.
Ride-by shooting every 20, 30 minutes.
LaFell Jackson is an OG, or original gangster, who brought the Crips from California to the capital city in the late 80s. He was indicted in '94 and released from the federal pen roughly 10 years later.
I'm denouncing the violence openly.
Like the street crew's former criminals, he experienced a transformation behind bars and has been trying to combat the call of a lifestyle that draws young people in, but rarely lets them go.
I tell them, once you pull the trigger, your whole family pull the trigger. And whoever you shoot and kill their whole family.
One thing Jackson and others say hasn't transformed is the systemic power of poverty and lack of opportunity in these majority black communities south of Interstate 630. With a city so small, the divide is incredibly stark.
We're gonna have to come out of these places where we stay and really go into these neighborhoods. And once you see it, you can deal with it.
We arrest children of people now that I arrested back in the early 90s, when now their children are getting arrested and their grandkids are getting arrested. So it's generational. They were born into this environment and they grew up in this environment. That's all they've ever really known.
Working to improve your neighborhood. That sign been on there for 4-5 years.
Despite city leaders' recognition of disenfranchisement, a lack of resources, and a need to change approaches,
ain't nobody been down here to do nothing.
All anyone, even change makers here, can point to is the deep-seated feeling these neighborhoods have been and remain forgotten. Promises of change ring hollow to some who have seen a continued decline for 2 decades.
Deterioration took place over a period of time. But the only way we're going to get out of this condition is we're going to be able to help ourselves.
That's where the street crew returns to beat the drum of training, education, and jobs. A plea for the city to help them help themselves by putting resources in place instead of promises.
That'll take them off the streets. That'll take them away from there, because, man, I'm making $16 an hour. My check last week was $600. And I didn't get shot at trying to make it.
Men like Brian Silva are willing to turn the tide. They all bear scars of their time on the streets.
I've been shot 3 times. I done been through more than a little bit.
I swear.
Do I want to continue to go through it? No. Nope.
But to leave that behind and recruit others, there has to be a path to a new way of living life in their corner of Little Rock.
Oh!
It just took something out of my heart that will never be replaced.
How am I going to tell my 6-year-old little girl about this? I just didn't want to believe it.
We all need to get serious and come together, all communities, in order to get this stuff under control.
Help Arkansas
declare victory
over violence.
KRK is kicking off another challenge. Many of us see or witness a daily battle in Central Arkansas, a matchup to overcome violence. And we have a choice here. We can sit back and wonder how to change it, or we can do something about it. There are plenty of winners out there already doing their part to make where we live a better place, but we want to take it a step further, and we want to help you help your community.
We will not be given to violence. We will not be given to war.
So I know the struggles that these kids have been going through.
Tim says the need for mentors is ever growing and required to reduce the number of youth bouncing out of bounds and into violence.
I want a mentor because I want people to help me with my communication.
Teaches me a lot of stuff, like what to do right.
The way you can really help solve some of the problems that we deal with in our community is getting involved in people's lives.
What an impact you can make by signing up to be a mentor. 1 hour a week can make a huge difference in a child's life.
We've had over 100 people sign up for mentoring.
It was a huge need, and I wanted to do something more with it, so I thought about a job fair.
Around 700 job seekers showed up to the 6-hour event.
I was brought up in a home of pain. I was brought up in a home of violence.
It's the people around that give when they might not even have directly involved with the situation.
Community members and city leaders meet tonight brainstorming ideas on how to make neighborhoods safer.
Every seat in the room was taken. People gave these passionate pleas, we can't just be sitting in a room like this. We have to go to these communities, literally knock on doors, get people out of their homes.
And that's exactly why these folks are out here today. They realize that crime can't be ignored, and it's got to be something that's got to be pushed back, even if it's just one step at a time.
Let's go! I want to be a part of
any group that's working toward ending it.
I want to see things change. I want to see it change for the better.
It's hard enough to know your son was gunned down in cold blood. Harder still to not know why. Fred Thompson was killed 11 years ago in Little Rock, and tonight, his 80-year-old mother, Norma Thompson, still grieves his death. Their story told a little differently in tonight's Unsolved Spotlight.
Imagine a spring morning with nothing alarming to look for, interrupted by knocks at a door. A picture and a question, is this your son?
And I told him yes. Fred was coming to my house like 6 o'clock in the morning. The only thing I know is what they told me. What the detectives told me, that he was killed on 2300 block on Wright Avenue. And he died by himself alone on the side of a road.
Told there was a shot at a distant range. A bullet felt before he heard the bang.
He didn't even have time to holler help, because they said the way that bullet went into his head, he was instantly dead.
His body made a bed of the asphalt, dirt, and grain. He was left with his money, jewels, and chains. She was left with an unnatural mother's pain.
You don't get over something like that. It hurts you all over. And you don't miss, it's not a day go by that you don't think about it.
No evidence from the incident, just empty-handed, just a file collecting dust, taking space. An unsolved crime, a cold case.
March the 13th, 2006.
Still waiting for answers to the ache.
I've been waiting all these years. That's 11 years. I hope they find the killer before I leave here, before my time is up, and I can find out who it is, and I just want to ask them why. What did Fred do to you so bad that you wanted to kill him? Why?
Norma told me years ago she would put notices in the newspaper asking anyone with information about Fred's death to come forward. Well, she doesn't do that anymore, and she said the last time she spoke with police, they told her even though it is a cold case, the case is still open. I want to give a special thanks to LaRon McAdoo, who wrote the words specifically for this story. You can check out his complete rap. It's a companion piece to the story on fox16.com. It's also a web extra. You can find it on our homepage.
Your job.
Making America great again.
Your money.
I'm excited about what we can continue to do.
Your health care.
Now is the time for action.
Your country.
Our world is a more dangerous place when America is not leading.
Decisions being made 1,000 miles away in Washington affect your everyday life. Tonight, you'll get the chance to make your voice heard with the people who represent you in our nation's capital.
From the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., this is a special production from your local election headquarters. Your Voice Arkansas, a congressional forum. Now to your host, Drew Petrimo.
Good evening and thanks for being with us. I'm Drew Petrimo. Tonight, we are looking at the big issues facing Arkansas and the country with all four of the state's U.S. representatives in Washington. This half hour, we're giving you the chance to let your voice be heard by your congressman. If you want to connect with us on social media, use the hashtag YourVoiceAR. We'll be tracking your tweets and Facebook posts throughout the next half hour. That will be the responsibility of our Jessie Tenura back in our studios in Little Rock. She'll be presenting your questions to your representatives this evening. Joining us, our 1st District Congressman Rick Crawford, representing Jonesboro, Batesville, and West Memphis. 2nd District Congressman French Hill, representing Little Rock, Conway, and Benton. 3rd District Congressman Steve Womack, representing Fayetteville, Bentonville, and Fort Smith. And 4th District Congressman Bruce Westerman, representing Hot Springs, Texarkana, and Pine Bluff. Gentlemen, welcome all of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
7 months into the 115th Congress, I want to go around the room. Everybody take a minute. Grade yourselves. How do you think the body has performed so far? What accomplishments do you hang your hat on? And what are some of the failures, if you think there are any? Congressman Crawford?
Well, I think we're doing above average work. We have control of both chambers, control of the White House, and there was an awful lot to clean up.
I never would imagine myself like this.
Over the past 16 years, Shannon Brumley has had to come to terms with his life looking a lot different than he planned.
A spare tire come out of the back of the truck, hit me.
The young man who was building a career as an electrician, had a new baby at home and lived to be outdoors, had his life shattered by a car crash.
He should have never came off the ventilator, but he did.
Shannon survived, but is now paralyzed from the neck down.
Go ahead and put your arm down, I'll get it.
In the past few years, a brain hemorrhage, sepsis, and multiple surgeries has set him back, requiring IV antibiotics every 6 hours and constant care. Through the AR Choices program, Shannon receives care at home. His mom is paid as a caregiver so he can have those supports while retaining some independence and a plan for the future.
We're getting older, and there's going to come a time we won't be able to do it.
8,000 other elderly Arkansans and those with physical disabilities rely on this state program to keep them out of nursing homes.
It was important to ensure that beneficiaries were assessed fairly and objectively.
In January 2016, DHS started a new system to award hours.
I know that there's some that may not have agreed with the outcome or the output, but I believe that we're doing the best job possible to meet the needs of our beneficiaries.
That new system uses computer-based assessments to place people into resource utilization groups or RUGs.
And we place the individual in the appropriate tier and RUG level to meet their needs.
Before, nurses would assess clients and assign hours with room to adjust based on perceived need. Now answers to 280 questions are plugged into an algorithm or mathematical formula to produce a score. You may have heard of algorithms before. They're essentially the same technology that create rules that produce outcomes. It's what generates your Google search and what's used to decide what shows up in your Facebook news feed. Only in this system, instead of deciding what videos show up on your screen, the formula determines the hours of life-sustaining care someone receives.
The answers that they input, we are assigning those hours based on the RUG level that they are placed into.
According to the Department of Human Services, this system prevents patients with similar needs from receiving vastly different care hours because of nurse discretion. Although there had never been a documented complaint about nurse discretion, DHS says it's being proactive.
We really haven't seen much good come from the algorithms.
Others argue the outcomes have only functioned to punish patients.
There's about 4,000 people across the state of Arkansas have been affected by reductions to the AR Choices program.
The Center for Arkansas Legal Services has received calls from hundreds of people saying their hours had been drastically reduced or even eliminated.
We've had one gentleman come to us. He's 103 years old.
He had been on the program for 13 years and received 156 hours a month, but he was deemed ineligible under the new system.
I'm very thankful.
Shannon had been receiving 56 hours a week or 8 hours a day under the old system.
For a quadriplegic that can do nothing for herself, that's minimal.
Under the algorithm, that dropped.
Cut 37 hours.
Or 5 hours a day.
That's sorry.
A cut of 35%.
I wish they had to be in my position. Yeah, like I said before, 1 week. Got to live my life for 1 week.
I worry a lot about Shannon.
Shannon's limited income from disability wouldn't support hiring someone outside the home to make up the hours.
I think I worry more about what happened when we're not here to care for him anymore.
Over the years, Shannon has found ways
I push forward and explicit
to overcome and find his own version of a quality life. This is the place that you heal.
Yes, this home place, yes.
Everyday challenges like chopping wood and mowing the lawn make him stronger.
Yes, I need
But
those
if the
hours.
cuts and hours keep coming,
more likely I have to go into nursing home.
Shannon's afraid he and
See, I
others
started another
may end up
vow.
having to leave home behind. Working for you, I'm Marcy Manley.
But that was last week.
I not want to do something nice to kind of help those kids.
It's like God had put it in my lap and said, here you go.
You're supposed to be responsible with what you're being given.
Huge sacrifice, and it's a huge commitment.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Distinguished Citizen of the Year, Jerry Jones.
Just as I crossed that Arkansas River, that tail on my plane kind of dipped down. Right at the end of the runway, it might have been 1,000 feet over the house I grew up in. Right as you landed at the field, there. I knew I was going to be here with you tonight. You great honorees, you champions. In a way, it's wonderful, wonderful to be on the team with you.
What a week in Canton, Ohio at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and what a night last night at the enshrinement ceremony. We thought Jerry Jones might get a little emotional, and he did.
Fearless Friday starts now. Brought to you by Baptist Health.
Hey guys, I'm Ben Creighton down in Saline County. A cold one tonight for a matchup of undefeateds in the 7A Central. Bryant taking on North Little Rock. Which team will come out on top and take the top spot in the conference? I'll have more in just a minute.
I'm Cherisy Chambers, and tonight in Alma, it's a good one. The Airedales are battling it out with the Greenbrier Panthers for the 5A West Conference lead. I'll have the highlights for you coming up.
The Pine Bluff Zebras are hosting the West Memphis Blue Devils. I'm Stephanie Sharp, and we'll have the highlights coming up on Fearless Friday.
I'm Tyler Thomason on a cold night with two red-hot teams, Lake Hamilton and Watson Chapel on Fearless Friday.
I'm Mitch Petrus here at Pulaski Academy again tonight, hosting McClellan. Hey, Wes, you got something on your shirt.
And I'm Mitch Lilly at Magnet Cove. The Panthers hosting Conway Christian tonight. I'll have those highlights. Fearless Friday starts right now.
What's he talking about? I don't have anything on my shirt. Petrus, man, that guy. Football weather is here just in time for the playoff run. Good evening, everybody. I'm Wes Moore. It's a big night for Fearless Friday. Any nerves on the first day? No.
Good to go, brother. Ready to roll. You know, I mean, it's a game, and we do our work during the week. It's game night. It's time for the kids to do their thing.
It was finally game day. The Patriots prepared for the long road trip ahead to Star City to kick off not only a new season, but also a new era.
It's exciting. Just the whole school is on you now. They're like, okay, show me something. New coach, new players, show me something. So we have to, it's not nerve-wracking, it's more exciting. You're like, okay, we have something to prove, because people don't really believe in you when the team was 1-9 before. I just woke up with like a real focused state of mind, like I have something to prove today.
Of course, for a 70-minute bus ride, coaches and players alike have their ways of mentally preparing for the battle facing them.
Whenever I can read, then that's a good thing. If I can't read, that means there's talking or too much talking.
Really don't talk to anybody, you know, just listen to music, poetry, stories, you know, just different things like that. You know, get your mind right before the game.
Live from Arkansas's breaking news leader, Fox 16 News at 5:30 starts now.
An action-packed evening unfolding throughout central Arkansas. We are following breaking news on several fronts all across the state. Multiple shooting investigations in Little Rock. An active search for two missing western Arkansas children whose mother was found dead. And the last of 4 scheduled executions, which is set to happen about 90 minutes from now. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I'm Kevin Kelly. We have live reports on all these stories across the area. We begin with a pair of shooting investigations in Little Rock. One at 23rd and Marshall, the other at an in-home daycare on Park Lane where one person was killed. We have crews at both scenes. We begin with Fox 16's Josh Berry at that daycare on Park Lane. Josh, quite an afternoon there, no doubt.
And it has been, Kevin, and it's of the shootings that we have reported on here in Little Rock, this is probably one of the most emotional, because we were here as parents were pulling up and walking up just on this side of the crime tape, trying to find their children as police were walking the children out of that home right there where we're told this all happened. And it was a drive-by that the daycare, we're told, was not the intended target. Officers tell me that shell casings were scattered around the street and in a home a couple of houses down that we're told that this drive-by targeted. Right now you can see that there are crime scene investigators in the street still working and standing around some of the evidence markers they laid down, upwards of 2 dozen. The shots were fired around 2:50 and say a silver car was seen speeding away. Once police had the scene blocked off, we watched as emergency crews took the victim away, actively trying to keep her alive. A short time later, we were notified that the caregiver, a 57-year-old woman, who we're told is Shirley Jackson, that police just released that name to me just a few minutes ago. We're told that the next of kin has been identified. While we were here, police were still escorting young children from the home. We're told that there were 9 in total at the home when this happened, but that none of them were hurt. Parents got here frantically hoping to embrace their children, but we were also here when they found out the caregiver had passed away.
Just praying for her and her
What's it mean
family.
to hold your son right now?
Man, everything to me, man.
I was there when they gave him to you, and you got emotional. I'm a 3-year-old, so I understand.
My son's my whole life, man. Oh, she died? Oh my God, no, man.
A very real scene unfolding while we were here this afternoon. We have been told that a second person was shot as a result of this drive-by, but that person, we're told, should be okay. Again, very limited suspect information released to us. All we've been told, and as of a few minutes ago, was that a silver car was seen speeding away from this scene. Now, virtually at the same time, just a bit away at the corner of 24th and Marshall, there was a second shooting that happened here in Little Rock that police are investigating. Fox 16's Caitlin Reardon is live there now with the latest. Caitlin, what can you tell us?
Well, Josh, yes, that's right. 24th and Marshall, you can see it's still police taped off. Investigators still on the scene canvassing. Now, they have picked up several of the markers they had out with all the shell casings. What we know right now is it happened around 2:30. Police say it was a drive-by shooting, but the suspect vehicle different than the one over there. This one was a minivan, started shooting at one of the houses in the area here. We know there was one victim, a 21-year-old man, was hit in the back or the shoulder. He did go to the hospital with injuries that were not life-threatening. Now, multiple guns used in this one, different calibers. We're not sure yet at this point if those shootings are connected, the one on Park and this one. And of course, we're not sure if it's random, but the person shot does not live at the house, we're told by police. Now, so far, we know they've made no arrests, and they are asking people in the area, if you have any information, give them a call. They need help trying to catch the people involved in these drive-by shootings. Reporting in Little Rock at 24th and Marshall, I'm Caitlin Reardon, Fox 16 News.
All right, Caitlin, thank you very much. Obviously, a very difficult situation unfolding with both of those stories. We'll be following that very closely. We're also following another developing story. You're looking at it right now. In about a half an hour, the state's 4th lethal injection in the span of a week is expected to get underway. We have team coverage of tonight's planned execution of Kenneth Williams. Fox 16's Jesse Tenor joining me live at the Cummins unit where it will all take place in Lincoln County. Jesse.
Hey, Kevin, as ADC staff continues to prepare for Kenneth Williams' scheduled execution tonight at 7 p.m., he is in a holding cell just right down the hallway from the death chamber, maybe thinking a little bit about why he's there to begin with. 17 years ago, Williams was put on death row for the killing of Cecil Boren. Williams escaped from prison from the Cummins unit in 1999 and just traveled about 4 miles down to Boren's family farm, where he shot him multiple times. And now we are able to, all of these years later, I was able to go to his clemency hearing, Williams' clemency hearing back in March, and he was saying that during these 18 years that the family has gone without a loved one, that he is not the same person as the one who pulled that trigger. He now calls himself Minister Kenneth Williams. He actually runs a Facebook page of that name where he's been posting a lot of updates up to this very moment. He did even go into his last words, and he was saying that he imagines during that time, right before his lethal injection, he would again apologize to his victims' families, and he would also continue to speak to God. He said that he would speak in a biblical tongue of sorts, and so we'll be able to bring you more information on that later tonight. But I want to pitch out to Marcy Manley back in Little Rock. Marcy, you've been following all of the legal developments since all of these executions started. It doesn't look like right now that there's any major legal hurdles standing in the way of Williams' execution, but what do you know right now?
Well, what we do know right now is that the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals has cleared 3 legal challenges and that Kenneth Williams has had every motion and request for stay of execution denied. Now everything has to head for a higher court, but we also can't rule out additional filings. Yesterday, the Arkansas Supreme Court denied 2 of his requests for a stay of execution. The court also denied another 2 for an emergency stay. Today, the federal 8th Circuit Court of Appeals dismissed all 3 stay requests within the past hour. In these filings, he's alleged intellectual disability, physical impairments that could cause problems with the drug protocols such as sickle cell, and juror misconduct in his death penalty criminal trial. Elsewhere, Fox 16's Drew Petrimo following the activity on the case in Washington, D.C. Drew, in the past 3 days of executions, the Supreme Court has declined to intervene.
Yeah, that's right. And in this case, he has filed a motion for stay with the United States Supreme Court. But as you said, we've seen this before. In the last 3 executions, the Supreme Court has basically gone along with what lower courts have said. In the first 2 executions that were stayed, the Arkansas Supreme Court had issued that stay. The United States Supreme Court declined to reverse it. In the ones that followed, there was no stay in place, and the Supreme Court declined to put one in place. So that seems to be the trajectory that they've been going, and if that holds true, the execution tonight will go forward. But of course, that is something we have to wait and see what happens. Important to note here is that there needs to be 5 justices to vote in favor of a stay for there to be one issue. There only needs to be 4 that would decide to take up a case. So there could be a case, and we've seen this before, where there is some inclination that the court would like to take a further look at an issue, but because they don't have those 5 votes in place, the execution still can go forward. That's the latest here in Washington. I'm Drew Petrimo. Let's go back to Jesse.
Drew, thanks. And as we await those legal challenges, we want to take another look back at some more of Williams' victims, what landed him here in the first place. It's almost been 2 decades since he murdered a UAPB cheerleader, Nikki Hurd. We were able to talk to her mom, and Nikki Hurd was just 19 years old, a student at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff when she was murdered. And her mom, Vicki Williams, remembers her only biological daughter as someone who was just full of life. Nikki was studying to be a doctor at the university when she and a friend were kidnapped, robbed, and shot by Williams. Her mother says she does forgive Williams, but she wonders if other tragedies could have been avoided if Williams had been sentenced to death in the first place for killing her daughter.
Kind of felt like if they would have given him that at first, maybe could have saved some more lives.
While Nikki's family does not plan to be here at Cummins tonight for Williams' execution, Boren's wife does. She says that she wants the closest she can to a front seat to watch her family finally get justice after 18 years. Kevin, we'll take it back to you.
All right, Jesse, thank you very much. Of course, we'll continue to monitor that. Our coverage continues, especially as we follow these legal battles that still exist. Be sure to join us on our Fox 16 Facebook page starting at 6:30 for live reports from the Cummins unit. And in Little Rock, we'll have that for you. Plus, the latest information tonight on Fox 16 News at 9 on our website and, of course, on fox16.com. We are following more breaking news tonight. We'll bring you the latest from western Arkansas, where 2 children are missing and their mother has been found dead. What investigators know after this.